For 3 years, he quietly supported his younger sister, from paying for her rent to her tuition fees, yet he never received a single word of thanks. And when he decided to attend a graduation party he had funded countless times, he was rejected by his own family. The feeling of being pushed out of his own life was not new, but when respect was finally lost, he could no longer remain silent. What happened next? Would his past actions be enough to start over and break free from the family he had always tried to protect? This story will make you reflect on family relationships and the true value of sacrifice. Since Donna came into the family, everything changed for me. I had been the only child in the family until she was born when I was 9 years old. Back then, I didn't fully understand all the changes this little sister would bring, but I realized that I was pushed away from the center of attention, where all the love and care were now directed toward her. Gradually, I became invisible in the eyes of everyone, just someone who helped when needed. And then I started supporting Donna. I gave everything I had, from $750 a month for rent to $3 and 200 for tuition. Each semester, I never asked for anything in return. Never expected anything except a simple thank you, but nothing ever changed. Every month, I quietly sent money, living frugally, sometimes skipping meals to make sure Donna could continue her studies. Yet, with all that I did, I received no recognition from the family. When Donna's graduation party came around, I never received an invitation, even though I was the main sponsor of the event. I only found out through photos accidentally shared in the family chat group. Those photos, not a single word for me, only compliments for Donna. Happy pictures of a lavish party I wasn't invited to. I asked myself, what did I do wrong? Why couldn't I be part of such an important event, even though I had helped her all these years? When I decided to attend the party, I didn't expect much. I thought maybe they just forgot something, and when I showed up, everything would be fine. I believed they simply forgot to invite me, and when I arrived, they would realize I was part of the family. But when I got there, a group of security guards stopped me right at the gate. I told them I was Donna's brother, but they didn't believe me. And then right in front of me, Donna, the little sister I had taken care of all these years, looked at me coldly and said, "You don't belong here." Those words were like a knife to my heart. And yet, even my parents didn't speak up. They stood there silent. My mother just said, "Today is a happy day. Don't cause trouble." Everything I had done for the family, all the unspoken sacrifices, meant nothing to them. I felt like I was just a shadow, always present when needed, but overlooked in the most important moments. I didn't say anything, more didn't argue or fight. I quietly turned away and left. A part of me wanted to resist, wanted to scream that I had done so much for this family, but I realized they no longer cared. I went home, sat down, and thought about everything that had happened. I sent Donna a message telling her that from next month she would have to take care of her own rent. She didn't need to rely on me anymore. And that's when everything truly changed. Since I decided to stop supporting Donna, everything within me seemed to change completely. After being rejected at the graduation party that I had contributed to countless times, I realized I could no longer live in a family that always treated me as a shadow, someone who was never recognized even after sacrificing everything. That moment truly made me realize something profound. I could no longer wait for recognition from those I had wholeheartedly sacrificed for. That day when I left the family without a word, I felt an indescribable emptiness in my heart. It wasn't because I lacked love, but because I had come to understand that my love was not being reciprocated. Donna, the sister I had loved so dearly, openly told me that I don't belong here. That wasn't just a statement, it was a betrayal, a denial of everything I'd done for her. It felt as though I was no longer part of the family. I realized I could no longer tolerate that injustice. When I sent the message to Donna informing her that she would have to cover her own rent starting next month, I didn't feel happy. It wasn't a decision made out of anger or hatred, but one born of exhaustion. Exhaustion from always enduring silence, lack of recognition, and being overlooked by those I had sacrificed so much for. I didn't want to continue living in expectation, hoping they would change and recognize my worth. The reality was that I had done everything, yet received no gratitude or even respect. So, why should I continue giving what I didn't get back? That feeling wasn't easy to bear. I didn't feel satisfied leaving my family, but I couldn't keep pretending anymore. Every month, I had sent money to Donna without asking for anything in return, hoping things would change. But no, all I received was silence and disdain. I had become a nameless helper, unseen by anyone. I once thought that love would be reciprocated, that always being there when needed would make me more important in their eyes. But clearly, I was wrong. I was wrong to think that love would be returned with affection. When Donna came to find me standing outside my door with a pleading look on her face, I didn't feel anger. She'd come to tell me she couldn't pay the rent without my help. But I didn't answer immediately. I let her stand there so she could feel the emotion I'd lived with for years, the loneliness, the abandonment, the neglect. I didn't want to make her cry, but I didn't want to forgive her easily either. I had helped her for so long, and now she was standing there not realizing that it was her emotional abuse that had caused me to stop. In the end, she admitted that our grandparents weren't invited to the graduation party. My mom said they always complained about the music and the noise, and at that moment I realized I wasn't the only one who had been abandoned. Our grandparents, who had always been a strong support in the family, were also forgotten. The truth was, they only wanted people who could bring benefits to the family. Anyone who was no longer useful would be cast aside. Donna, along with my mom, didn't hesitate to exclude our grandparents just because they no longer fit the image of the family they were trying to build. I wasn't surprised when I received a call from my grandparents afterward. They came to visit me bringing coffee and pastries. They didn't ask about Donna or the party. They didn't need to say anything because their actions spoke louder than words, reminding me that I still had real family members who loved and valued me for who I am. They were the only ones in this family who truly understood and empathized with me. And from then on, I knew I no longer needed to seek validation from those who didn't deserve it. My story with Donna is not over, but one thing I'm sure of: I no longer fear leaving behind things that do not bring me peace or respect. The end of one chapter in my life isn't the end of everything. It's the beginning of a new chapter where I will no longer place my hope in unrealistic things, but seek what truly deserves it. After deciding to stop supporting Donna, I no longer sought explanations from my family. I cut off contact with those I had sacrificed so much for the people I thought would always be where I could return, where I would be loved and respected. Their indifference and forgetfulness were not just about not inviting me to important events, but also about how they treated me as a tool to be exploited. When I decided to stop financially supporting Donna, it wasn't because I was angry with her, but because I realized that she and the family didn't truly appreciate what I did. The feeling of walking away wasn't easy, but it also opened up a truth I had to face. I no longer wanted to play the role of the unconditional sacrificer, because that only made me a shadow in their lives. And just as I expected, Donna came looking for me. She didn't ask about me or share her feelings after that party. She just stood outside my door, clutching her pleas. That's when I realized that although she needed me, she had never truly seen me. She only saw me as an ATM, someone who was always there when she needed it. And that was all her tears. Her apologies could not hide the truth that she had treated me as a tool. And my family did the same. Donna cried, but not because she felt guilty. She cried because she couldn't live without my support. She never thought the time would come when I would stop. As she begged, I silently watched her, not saying a word. I no longer had the empathy I once gave her. The feeling of being used for all those years made it impossible for me to open up again. She didn't know that I had realized everything she thought of me. She had mocked me when I tried to be part of important moments in her life. But when I truly needed a bit of appreciation, I was pushed aside. She didn't think I would stop, but that's exactly what I needed to do, to reclaim my self-respect. And then, when she had no answers to my questions, I received a call from my grandparents. They came to visit me, bringing coffee and little pastries. They didn't ask about Donna the party or my family. They came just to be with me to let me know that there were still people who truly understood me and loved me without expecting anything in return. They didn't need to say much. Their presence was everything. When my grandparents left, I realized that I couldn't continue living in a family where basic values like respect and love no longer existed. I couldn't keep enduring the indifference and ingratitude from those I had spent my youth caring for. They didn't see me as part of the family, but only as someone to be used when needed. And I couldn't continue accepting that. My story is not one of abandonment seeking sympathy. It is the story of realizing that I deserve a life free from selfishness and abuse. I have done my best, and now it's time for me to walk away and reclaim my self worth. When I decided not to attend family parties, not to maintain relationships that only brought pain, I didn't regret it. I didn't need them to acknowledge or change. I just needed peace within myself. And I realized that sometimes silence is the final answer. When I decided not to be part of that painful story anymore, I felt like I was finally free. After I decided to stop supporting Donna, my life turned a new page. I was no longer the long suffering older brother who gave without ever receiving. But what I didn't expect was that my family's actions would make me feel the injustice I had endured all these years even more intensely. What happened next in this story? Will my family change, or will I have to continue living in the shadows they've created for me? When I received a call from my grandparents, I knew that, no matter how much my family abandoned me, I still had a place to return to. They didn't need to do anything except visit me, bringing along some cakes and coffee, simply to remind me that I still had value. Although Donna and my family didn't invite them to the party, I knew they were the ones who truly cared and understood me. They never judged me, never saw me as a tool, and were always there for me when I needed them the most. Just one small gesture from my grandparents gave me a sense of relief. Their silence without any judgment, just their presence in my life, helped me realize that I didn't have to live in a family where I wasn't respected. I had spent so much time seeking recognition from people who would never see me for who I truly was. I waited and hoped that one day they would see my value, but the truth was I didn't need to wait anymore. What I needed was self respect, not theirs. As I continued to reflect on what had happened, I didn't feel anger or hatred. The only thing I felt was relief I had let go of so many things without getting anything in return. Even though I had sacrificed and helped, I received no acknowledgement, only disdain. And I realized that this was not love or care. True love is when you help without expectation and you receive a genuine thank you, not silence or even mockery. When I decided to share my story on Reddit, it wasn't to seek revenge or sympathy, but to free myself from the falsehoods my family had created. People might not understand, but I had to tell the truth. And when I posted a screenshot of my conversation with Donna, I didn't expect any change from my family, but I couldn't sit still and continue to endure. They needed to know that what they had done could not be overlooked forever. They couldn't keep deceiving themselves and think they were still right. Immediately, I received responses from many people. Some were outraged on my behalf. Others shared their own stories, and I felt empathy I had never received from my family. What surprised me was that one family member, Nathan, contacted me after reading my post. He wasn't someone who often spoke out, but what he said caught me off guard. He admitted that he knew everything that had happened, but had never dared to speak up. He shared that he had always known I was the one who sacrificed for the family, and although he had remained silent for so long, he still understood and sympathized. Nathan handed me an envelope containing three $20 bills along with a short note. A lunch for every month. I acted like you didn't exist. I didn't feel hurt or angry, but a sense of relief. Finally, someone in my family had seen and acknowledged my sacrifices, not because I needed the money, but because he recognized and took responsibility for the wrongs he had witnessed. When I realized that Nathan was the only one in my family brave enough to speak out and acknowledge the truth, I didn't feel the urge to change him or forgive him immediately, but what I got from him was acknowledgement, the very thing I had been seeking for so long, What I had been through was no longer pain, but a lesson in self worth. In the end, I no longer depended on whether my family would change. What mattered was that I ended the meaningless suffering and began living for myself. After everything that had happened, I knew my decision was the right one. I didn't need to maintain unhealthy relationships, didn't need to keep living in a family where there was no respect. What I needed was to live freely without pretending and without explaining myself to those who didn't understand. Those are the lessons I've learned from my family's final actions and from the change within myself. After sharing my story, I never expected that the truth I decided to reveal would bring such a profound change within me. I didn't think a Reddit post would make me feel seen, but it opened a door I never imagined. I didn't expect empathy, nor did I want pity, but the truth is, when I let everything go and stopped suffering in silence, I discovered a new strength within myself. This strength didn't come from family recognition, but from facing the pain I had long buried. Nathan, who I never expected to speak out, acknowledged the unfairness I had endured. He wasn't one to speak up in the family, always keeping his distance and avoiding conflict. But when he saw my post, he couldn't stay silent. I didn't need an apology or soothing words, but his small gesture, three $20 bills with a note saying, "A lunch for each month I treated you like you didn't exist," truly made me feel seen. It wasn't about the money, but about the acknowledgement. At that moment, I realized that sometimes big changes in life come from small actions. What matters is not the recognition from those I've sacrificed for, but the recognition from myself. I had to learn to let go. And in that journey, I realized that I didn't need to wait for others to change. Instead, I began changing myself. My change didn't come from cutting off all relationships, but from no longer hoping for a love that would never be returned. I stopped waiting for recognition from my family. The people in my family may never change the way they treat me, but I changed. I no longer let them define my worth. I no longer stood waiting for acceptance. I began to accept and love myself. The moment I received a call from my grandparents, I understood that family isn't just about those who gave birth to you. True love comes from those who never exploit you, who never put you in situations you don't deserve. My grandparents didn't need to say much. Their presence, simply visiting me and bringing small gifts, was exactly what I needed at that time. They didn't ask me about Donna, about my family life. It was just listening and sharing. And that was what I had missed from my family all these years. Although I had shared everything with my family, their silence made me stop expecting anything from them. I had waited long enough for them to see my worth, but now I realized I didn't need to wait anymore. What I needed was to live for myself, not for others' expectations. I didn't need them to change for me to feel valuable. I defined that for myself. After everything, I realized that change isn't an event that happens in an instant, but a process. When I posted my story and saw the responses from others, I felt like I had done something right. The encouragement, the similar stories from others, all served as proof that I wasn't alone. And most importantly, I felt like I had been freed from a burden I had carried for so long. No more feeling abandoned, no more feeling abused. My story is not just about the suffering in my family. It's about the journey to find myself. It's the journey I went through from sacrificing and waiting for recognition to letting go and reclaiming my self-respect. Sometimes parting ways is not the end, but the beginning of a new life. A life where you no longer have to wait for anyone to recognize you because you've already recognized your own worth. If you feel abandoned, unappreciated, or just like an outsider in your own family, please remember that you deserve respect and love. Never sacrifice yourself just because of the expectations or silence of others. Sometimes walking away and freeing yourself from unhealthy relationships is the only way to find yourself again. Remember, your worth is not determined by how others treat you, but by how you value yourself. This is the end of the story. If you enjoyed it, please leave a comment, like, share, and subscribe to give us the motivation to create more videos. Thank you for listening, and we'll see you again soon.